15 black R and B female singers who were actually prostitutes. In the golden age of R&B, the world cheered their heavenly voices and chart-topping hits. But behind the glamour, 15 legendary black female singers were forced to trade their bodies for fame. From smoky clubs to locked label offices, they paid the ultimate price just to be heard. Their stories will shock you. Stay until the end, you won't believe who's number one. Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday, the unforgettable Lady Day, remains one of the most emotionally powerful voices in jazz history. Her raw, haunting delivery could transform any song into a deep confession of sorrow and defiance. Yet her journey to the top was paved with unimaginable hardship and difficult survival choices that many young black female artists were forced to confront in that unforgiving era. Born into crushing poverty in 1915, Billie endured a childhood filled with abandonment and struggle. By her early teens in Baltimore and Harlem, she was already fighting to survive on the streets. Historical records show that at just 14 or 15 years old, she faced desperate circumstances that led her into situations where her body became part of the harsh bargain for basic survival. Arrested and briefly imprisoned as a teenager, she later escaped that world through singing in Harlem's smoky nightclubs. In 1933, at age 18, producer John Hammond discovered her talent. What followed were challenging negotiations and compromising paths that opened doors to recording contracts and stage opportunities, but came at a heavy personal price. Like many pioneering black women in the industry, Billie had to navigate power imbalances where ambition often demanded more than just vocal ability. Despite everything, she rose. In 1939, she delivered the groundbreaking protest song, "Strange Fruit," a bold and haunting masterpiece that confronted racial violence and became one of the most important recordings of the century, even though many radio stations banned it. Her later life was marked by addiction, legal troubles, and financial hardship. When she passed away in 1959 at age 44, she had only 70 cents to her name. Billie Holiday's story powerfully illustrates the dark truth behind the title. Some of the greatest voices in R&B and jazz history were forced to pay an enormous price, sometimes with their dignity and body, just to let the world hear them sing. Tina Turner. Tina Turner is one of the most powerful and inspiring icons in music history. A true queen of rock and soul whose explosive voice and unstoppable energy conquered the world. But long before her legendary solo success, her early career was marked by years of fear control and deep personal suffering. In 1956, at just 16 years old, Anna Mae Bullock was discovered by Ike Turner in a St. Louis club. What began as an exciting opportunity quickly turned into a relationship filled with domination and hardship. For nearly 16 years, Ike controlled every aspect of her life and career. Tina was forced to perform night after night while hiding her pain behind dazzling stage smiles and powerful performances. The pressure became unbearable. In 1976, after reaching her breaking point, Tina made the courageous decision to walk away with almost nothing, just 36 cents in her pocket. She left behind the man who had helped build her name but also shattered her spirit. What happened next is one of the greatest comeback stories in entertainment history. Tina rebuilt her life and career from the ground up, transforming into a global superstar with massive hits and sold-out world tours. Her journey is a striking example of the hidden cost behind fame. Many legendary voices in R&B and soul had to endure painful sacrifices and controlling situations just to be heard and to survive in the industry. Tina Turner didn't just survive, she rose stronger than ever, becoming a symbol of resilience and unbreakable strength for millions around the world. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin, crowned the undisputed queen of soul, possessed one of the most transcendent voices in American music history. Yet behind the soaring gospel runs and chart-topping anthems lay years of denied respect in her personal life. From a young age, Aretha sang in her father, Reverend C.L. Franklin's Detroit church, where handlers on the gospel circuit sometimes treated her talent as leverage rather than protecting her vulnerability. The pressures of the male-dominated industry followed her into adulthood. In 1961, at age 19, she married Ted White, a Detroit promoter who became her manager. What began as a partnership quickly turned turbulent. White was controlling and physically abusive. Reports from the late 1960s, including a 1968 Time magazine cover story, described him roughing her up in public, including a violent incident at Atlanta's Regency Hyatt House Hotel that left visible bruises and even resulted in the venue banning her temporarily. Friends and fellow artists witnessed the bruises and emotional strain. Despite the turmoil, Aretha continued to record and perform, her voice carrying both pain and unmatched power. In 1967, she signed with Atlantic Records and began working with legendary producer Jerry Wexler. That same year, she recorded her iconic version of Otis Redding's Respect at Muscle Shoals. The song exploded. It reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 2 weeks, topped the R&B chart for 8 consecutive weeks, and earned her 2 Grammy Awards. Aretha transformed the track with her fiery delivery and unforgettable RESPECT spelling, turning it into a universal demand for dignity. For millions of women and civil rights supporters, Respect became a feminist and empowerment anthem. For Aretha herself, it carried a deeper, more personal resonance. A powerful scream for the respect she had long been denied at home. She separated from White in 1968 and finalized the divorce in 1969, emerging stronger and more independent. Aretha Franklin's legacy is not only her 18 Grammy Awards and timeless hits, but her quiet courage. She sang through the pain, demanded respect with every note, and inspired generations to do the same. Even when denied it in her private world, she made sure the world would never forget to give it. Ella Fitzgerald. Ella Fitzgerald, universally known as the First Lady of Song, possessed one of the purest, most agile voices in jazz history. Her flawless phrasing, improvisational scat singing, and joyful swing influenced generations of vocalists. Yet her path to stardom began in profound hardship and came at a personal cost that she rarely spoke about publicly. Born on April 25, 1917 in Newport News, Virginia, Ella lost her mother at age 15. She was placed in a New York orphanage and later a state reform school where she endured harsh treatment. She ran away and spent time homeless on the streets of Harlem during the Great Depression, surviving by singing for tips and scraping by however she could. On November 21, 1934, at age 17, her life changed at Harlem's Apollo Theater. Originally planning to dance in amateur night, a nervous Ella switched to singing at the last moment. She won first prize, catching the attention of the music world. Months later, she was introduced to drummer and bandleader Chick Webb, who was initially reluctant because of her gawky, unkempt appearance. After a successful tryout at Yale University and then at the Savoy Ballroom, Webb hired the teenager as his featured vocalist. He became a mentor figure, sometimes described as a legal guardian, giving the young runaway a stable home within his orchestra. With Chick Webb's band, Ella honed her craft night after night at the legendary Savoy. In 1938, at age 21, she co-wrote and recorded her breakthrough hit, A Tisket, A Tasket, a playful adaptation of a children's nursery rhyme inspired by games she played in the orphanage. The song exploded. It reached #1 on the charts, stayed on the hit parade for 19 weeks, and sold over 1 million copies. It transformed both Ella and the band into national stars. When Chick Webb died in 1939 from spinal tuberculosis, the 22-year-old Ella bravely took over leadership of his orchestra, becoming one of the first women to front a major big band. She later built a spectacular solo career recording the landmark songbook series, mastering scat and performing for presidents and royalty. Ella rarely discussed the darker pressures or personal sacrifices of her early years in the male-dominated swing scene. She guarded her private life fiercely, presenting a flawless, dignified public image. The ultimate price she paid was carrying silent burdens from her traumatic youth and the tough realities of breaking through as a young black woman in 1930s. Harlem, all while gifting the world unmatched musical joy and elegance. Ella Fitzgerald passed away on June 15, 1996, leaving behind a towering legacy of over 200 albums, 13 Grammy Awards, and a voice that still defines vocal jazz. From homeless streets to global stages, she turned hardship into timeless art, proving that true greatness often rises from the deepest shadows with grace and quiet strength. Etta James. Etta James, one of the most powerful and emotionally raw voices in R&B and soul history, delivered performances that could shatter hearts and fill dance floors. Her 1960 classic At Last remains a timeless ballad of love and fulfillment, melting listeners for over 6 decades. Yet behind that silky, triumphant delivery lay decades of profound personal trauma and struggle that few fully understood at the time. Born Jamesetta Hawkins in 1938 in Los Angeles, Etta endured a chaotic and painful childhood. Her mother was often absent, and Etta lived with various foster families. One foster father, known as Sarge, was physically abusive. In her raw 1995 autobiography, Rage to Survive, she described being awakened in the middle of the night during his drunken poker games, beaten with a razor strap if she refused, and forced to sing for his friends while still in her pajamas. This early trauma left deep scars, including performance anxiety that haunted her throughout her career. By her mid-teens, Etta had formed a vocal group originally called the Creolettes, later the Peaches. While gigging in Los Angeles clubs around 1954, the young singers faced the harsh realities of the Chitlin circuit and nightclub scene, where young black women were often vulnerable to exploitation and pressure from club owners in exchange for stage time and opportunities. In 1959 to 1960, Etta signed with Chess Records in Chicago, where co-founder Leonard Chess played a major role in shaping her sound. He provided structure studio time with orchestras and helped craft her breakthrough album At Last 1960. The title track became her signature hit, reaching the top of the R&B charts and crossing over to pop audiences. Leonard Chess supported her career in practical ways, including helping with personal crises, but the broader Chess environment reflected the era's exploitative business practices, poor royalty payments, and control that left many artists financially strained. Etta's greatest battle, however, was with heroin addiction, which began in the early 1960s and plagued her for decades. She entered multiple rehabs, faced arrests, and saw her career interrupted by the cycle of dependency. In her own words, the drug became both escape and prison. Despite the pain, Etta James rose again and again. She earned 6 Grammy Awards, was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and left behind a catalog of raw, unforgettable performances. At Last may have sounded like a dream fulfilled to the world, but for Etta, it was born from a lifetime of nightmares, childhood abuse, industry pressures, addiction, and the constant fight for survival. She sang her truth with unmatched intensity, turning private suffering into public art that continues to resonate deeply. Etta passed away on January 20th, 2012 at age 73, leaving a legacy of resilience as powerful as her voice. Dinah Washington. Dinah Washington, born Ruth Lee Jones on August 29, 1924, in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, emerged as one of the most commanding and versatile voices in mid-20th century American music. Often called the Queen of the Blues, she blended gospel fire jazz sophistication and raw R&B emotion into a style that influenced countless artists. Yet her remarkable success came at a steep personal cost, as she navigated the intense pressures of the music industry while battling inner demons that ultimately contributed to her early death. Raised in Chicago after her family moved north, Dinah began singing in gospel choirs before transitioning to secular music. In 1943, while performing with Lionel Hampton's band in Chicago, she caught the attention of industry figures. Like many young black female artists of the era, she faced the harsh realities of a male-dominated business where opportunities could come with unspoken expectations. Historical accounts from the period describe how managers and label executives sometimes exerted control over artists' careers and personal lives in exchange for tours, recordings, and radio play. Dinah worked hard to secure her solo spotlight, later moving to Mercury Records, where she polished her image and broadened her appeal. Between 1948 and 1955, she delivered an astonishing 27 R&B top 10 hits, a staggering run that made her one of the most dominant female recording artists of the post-war era. Her powerful delivery shone on classics like Baby Get Lost, Am I Asking Too Much? And later pop-crossing smashes such as What a Difference a Day Makes 1959, which earned her a Grammy and introduced her voice to wider audiences. Behind the spotlight, however, Dinah carried heavy burdens. She struggled with her weight and turned to diet pills to maintain the glamorous image expected of stars. Combined with alcohol and prescription sedatives for insomnia and stress, these substances took a toll. On December 14, 1963, at just 39 years old, Dinah Washington was found dead in her Detroit home. An autopsy revealed a lethal combination of secobarbital and amobarbital barbiturates from her prescriptions, leading to an accidental overdose. Dinah Washington's voice remains timeless, fierce, intimate, and unforgettable. She left behind a catalog of hits that defined an era. Yet her story also reflects the immense weight so many pioneering black women carried in an industry that demanded excellence while offering little protection. From gospel roots to blues royalty, she sang with unmatched authority even as the pressures of fame quietly eroded her health. Her legacy endures as both a musical triumph and a sobering reminder of the human cost behind the crown. Ruth Brown. Ruth Brown, affectionately known as Miss Rhythm, was the powerhouse vocalist whose string of hits in the early 1950s literally built Atlantic Records into a major independent label and helped lay the foundation for modern R&B and rock and roll. With a voice full of fire, sass, and emotion, she delivered one infectious hit after another, turning Atlantic from a small startup into a powerhouse. In 1949, after a serious car accident left her hospitalized for months with both legs in traction, Ruth was visited by Atlantic co-founder Ahmet Ertegun. He brought flowers, encouragement, and a recording contract. She signed with the label and quickly became its biggest star. Between 1949 and 1955, Ruth scored a remarkable run of success. She placed records on the Billboard R&B chart for a total of 149 weeks, earned 21 top 10 hits, and landed 5 #1 R&B singles, including Teardrops from My Eyes. #1 for 11 weeks in 1955, 10-15 Hours, and Mama He Treats Your Daughter Mean. Her upbeat, rhythmic style earned her the title The Girl with the Tear in Her Voice and made her Atlantic's top-selling artist of the decade. Yet despite selling millions of records and helping define the sound of 1950s R&B, Ruth saw very little financial reward. She was paid flat session fees, reportedly around $69 per tune against a low royalty rate, while the label covered and often inflated recording and promotion costs. For decades, Atlantic claimed she owed them money. By the 1980s, struggling financially and working as a maid and bus driver at times, Ruth fought back. With the help of pro bono attorney Howell Beagle, she challenged Atlantic's accounting practices. The battle exposed how the label had withheld royalties from many early R&B artists. In the late 1980s, Ruth received a settlement payment of approximately $20,000 with her debts forgiven. More importantly, her activism pressured Ahmet Ertegun and Warner Communications to donate $1.5 million to establish the Rhythm and Blues Foundation in 1988, which has since provided critical support and back royalties to dozens of pioneering black artists. Ruth Brown didn't just build Atlantic Records with her voice, she later forced it to confront its past. She was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993 and continued performing until her death in 2006. Her story stands as both a celebration of extraordinary talent and a powerful reminder of the long fight for fairness in the music industry. LaVern Baker. LaVern Baker, the voice of Tweedledee, who was robbed and exploited. LaVern Baker born. Dolores Evans, on November 11, 1929, in Chicago, brought bold, sassy energy and a powerhouse voice to 1950s rhythm and blues. She started performing as Little Miss Sharecropper before signing with Atlantic Records in 1953, where she quickly became one of the label's rising stars. Her breakthrough came in early 1955 with the upbeat Latin-flavored hit Tweedledee, which climbed to number 4 on the R&B chart and number 14 on the pop chart, eventually selling over 1 million copies. The song should have launched her into major mainstream success. Instead, white singer Georgia Gibbs recorded a near note-for-note cover on Mercury Records. Gibbs's version soared to number 1 on the Billboard pop chart, outselling Baker's original and earning far greater financial rewards. Baker was furious. She attempted to sue Gibbs for $250,000 and even petitioned Congress to address the practice of white artists covering black hits with nearly identical arrangements, a common form of exploitation in that era. Her efforts helped spark a congressional investigation into song theft, though she ultimately lost the lawsuit. Like many pioneering black female artists on Atlantic, LaVern faced the broader challenges of the music industry in the 1950s: low royalty rates, tight creative control, and the constant pressure to deliver hits while receiving limited financial benefits. Herb Abramson, co-founder of Atlantic, played a key role in signing and recording her early material, but the system often left artists like Baker financially disadvantaged despite their chart success. She delivered additional hits such as Jim Dandy, 1956, and I Cried a Tear, 1958. Yet the industry's racial and economic imbalances meant she rarely reaped the full rewards of her talent. Frustrated by the exploitation and lack of fair compensation, LaVern Baker walked away from the spotlight in 1969. She spent the next 2 decades working at a U.S. military base in the Philippines, living a quieter life far from the music business. She returned to performing in the 1980s and 1990s, earning new recognition and induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1991. LaVern Baker's vibrant voice helped shape early rock and roll, but her career also highlighted how black artists were frequently robbed both creatively and financially in the rush for mainstream success. She sang with joy and fire while quietly carrying the weight of systemic exploitation. Her story remains a powerful reminder of the true cost behind the hits we still love today. Big Maybelle. Big Maybelle, the blues queen who paid with her body and died in poverty. Big Maybelle, born Mabel Louise Smith on May 1, 1924 in Jackson, Tennessee, possessed one of the most explosive and commanding voices in 1950s rhythm and blues. Standing over 250 pounds with a gravelly powerhouse delivery that could shake a room, she earned the title Queen of the Blues through raw emotion and sheer vocal strength. Her career peaked in the early 1950s, but success came amid the harsh realities faced by many black women in the music industry of that era. In 1952, while performing in Cincinnati, she was discovered and signed to OK Records by producer Fred Mendelssohn. He gave her the professional name Big Maybelle and produced her debut single for the label Gabbin' Blues, written by Rose Marie McCoy and arranged by Leroy Kirkland. The song became a major hit, reaching number 3 on the Billboard R&B chart in 1953. It was followed by other successful releases, such as Way Back Home and My Countryman. These recordings helped establish her as a star on the Chitlin circuit, where she headlined at venues like the Apollo Theater. Like many artists of the time, Big Maybelle operated in a male-dominated industry where label executives and promoters held significant power over careers, promotions, and finances. While specific personal details about her relationship with Mendelssohn remain limited in public records, the broader pattern of economic control and unequal treatment was common: low royalty rates, flat session fees, and dependency on gatekeepers for opportunities often left pioneering R&B singers financially vulnerable despite chart success. As the 1950s progressed, Big Maybelle struggled with heroin addiction, which began impacting her health and reliability. She battled the habit for nearly 3 decades before attempting to get clean. Her later years were marked by declining health, including diabetes. On January 23, 1972, at age 47, Big Maybelle died in a diabetic coma at Cleveland Metropolitan General Hospital in Ohio. She passed away in relative poverty despite her influential voice that helped shape the foundation of soul and R&B and inspired artists like Aretha Franklin, Etta James, and Janis Joplin. Big Maybelle's story is one of immense talent, overshadowed by personal demons and the systemic challenges of her time. Her powerful recordings still resonate today, reminding us of the heavy price many early blues and R&B queens paid in body health and financial security for the music they gave the world. Esther Phillips. Esther Phillips, born Esther Mae Washington on December 23, 1935 in Galveston, Texas, possessed one of the most haunting and mature voices in early R&B. Still a teenager, she was billed as Little Esther and became one of the youngest stars the genre had ever seen. Her story began in 1949 in Houston and Los Angeles, where as a 14-year-old she reluctantly entered an amateur talent contest at the Barrel House Club in Watts, a venue co-owned by bandleader and talent scout Johnny Otis. Her powerful, raspy delivery stunned the audience and Otis himself. He quickly signed her, brought her into his touring review, and helped launch her recording career. In 1950, at age 15, Esther recorded Double Crossing Blues with the Johnny Otis Quintet and the Robins on Savoy Records. The track exploded, reaching #1 on the Billboard R&B chart and holding the top spot for 9 weeks. It became her first major hit and one of the biggest successes of her early career, introducing her distinctive bluesy style to a national audience. The music industry in the late 1940s and early 1950s was notoriously tough for young black female artists. Esther entered this world as a child prodigy from a broken home singing in church before crossing into the blues and nightclub scene. Johnny Otis played a pivotal role as her discoverer and mentor, but the rapid rise brought intense pressures. Like many artists of that era, she faced the harsh realities of a male-dominated business where personal boundaries were often tested and careers depended heavily on powerful gatekeepers. By the mid-1950s, Esther was already battling heroin addiction, a struggle that would shadow her for the rest of her life. She spent years in and out of treatment with periods of comeback success, including a 1975 hit with a cover of What a Difference a Day Makes alternating with personal decline. On August 7, 1984, Esther Phillips died at age 48 in Carson, California, from liver and kidney failure, directly linked to long-term drug abuse. Her voice, often described as angelic, yet drenched in sorrow, delivered raw emotion that influenced generations of soul and blues singers. Esther Phillips rose as a teenage sensation with Double Crossing Blues, but the bright lights could not protect her from the personal demons and industry pressures that followed. She left behind a catalog of unforgettable recordings and a legacy as a gifted artist whose heavenly talent was ultimately overshadowed by the hell she endured behind the scenes. Gladys Bentley. Gladys Bentley was a bold, unapologetic force during the Harlem Renaissance. Born on August 12, 1907 in Philadelphia, she moved to New York City as a teenager and quickly became one of the most electrifying entertainers in Harlem's vibrant nightlife. Standing nearly 250 pounds and dressed in men's tuxedos, top hats, and tailored suits, she performed risque blues songs laced with sexual innuendo, flirting openly with women in the audience. Her powerful piano playing and deep commanding voice made her a star at legendary spots like Harry Hansberry's Clam House, and in the early 1930s, headliner at the Ubongi Club, where she was backed by a chorus line of drag queens. Bentley defied every social convention of her time. As a black woman in the 1920s and 30s, she lived openly as a lesbian when few dared to do so. Her gender non-conforming style and proudly queer performances challenged both racial and sexual norms, making her a pioneering figure in queer and black history. The Great Depression and shifting cultural tides brought new pressures. During the conservative McCarthy era of the 1950s, societal backlash against homosexuality intensified. In 1952, Bentley made a dramatic change. She began wearing dresses claimed to have been cured through hormone treatments, and entered a brief marriage to a man named Charles Roberts in Santa Barbara, California. This public shift allowed her to continue working in an increasingly hostile environment, but it came at the cost of suppressing the bold identity that had defined her earlier career. Despite the compromises, Gladys Bentley's rebellious spirit left an indelible mark. She recorded dozens of tracks, entertained integrated audiences in an era of segregation, and inspired future generations with her courage. She passed away on January 18, 1960, at age 52 in Los Angeles from complications of the flu initially reported as pneumonia. Gladys Bentley was more than a performer. She was a trailblazer who refused to shrink herself. The 250-pound rebel in a tuxedo defied gender expectations, racial barriers, and societal shame, proving that true artistry often requires the bravery to live authentically, even when the world demands otherwise. Her legacy continues to empower those who dare to break the rules. Victoria Spivey. Victoria Spivey, often called Queen V, was a bold, Texas-born blues singer, songwriter, and pianist who refused to remain a victim of the exploitative music business of the 1920s. Born on October 15, 1906 in Houston, she grew up in a musical family and began performing young, playing piano in theaters and clubs. In 1926, at age 19, she moved to St. Louis and was signed by OK Records. Her very first recording, the risque, self-penned Black Snake Blues, co-credited with Lonnie Johnson, became a commercial success and established her as a rising star in classic female blues. Like many young black women entering the recording industry during the race records era, Spivey faced the harsh realities of male gatekeepers who controlled access to studios' promotion and payment. In the late 1920s, she recorded extensively, more than 30 sides in roughly 3 years for OK in New York, followed by sessions for Victor Vocalion and Decca. She worked with jazz giants including Louis Armstrong and King Oliver, and wrote powerful, unflinching songs like Dope Head Blues and TB Blues that tackled real-life struggles with addiction illness and hard living. By the early 1930s, frustrated with low royalties, poor contracts, and limited control, Spivey stepped back from full-time recording while continuing to perform. She never stopped believing in her own worth. In 1961, at a time when many classic blues artists had been forgotten, Spivey took charge of her destiny. She co-founded Spivey Records in New York with her husband, jazz historian Len Kunstadt. The independent label allowed her to produce her own music and give opportunities to both veteran blues artists such as Sippy Wallace and Big Joe Turner and newer talents. It became a platform for authentic blues during the 1960s folk blues revival, helping preserve the music she loved. Victoria Spivey turned the pain and exploitation she experienced in her early career into power and independence. She continued performing and recording until her death on October 3, 1976, at age 69. Her story stands as an inspiring example of resilience, a pioneering black woman who moved from being used by the industry to owning her own label and legacy. She proved that even after being taken advantage of, a determined artist could rewrite the rules and build something lasting on her own terms. Faye Adams. Faye Adams, born Fannie Tuell, later known as Fannie Jones, on May 22, 1923 in New Jersey, possessed a big, gospel-drenched voice that earned her the nickname, the Little Gal with the Big Voice. She began singing in church and later performed in local clubs before breaking into the professional R&B scene in the early 1950s. While working the New York/New Jersey club circuit, including regular appearances at venues like Rudy's Tavern, Faye faced the typical pressures many young black female singers encountered in the male-dominated nightlife and music business of the era. Opportunities for stage time and visibility often came with difficult personal demands from club owners and industry figures seeking to control or exploit emerging talent. In 1953, trumpeter and bandleader Joe Morris signed her to Herald Records and changed her name to Faye Adams. Her second release, the gospel-infused ballad Shake a Hand, became a massive smash. Written by Joe Morris, The song topped the Billboard R&B chart for 8 to 10 weeks in 1953. Sources vary slightly on the exact duration. At number 1, crossed over to the pop charts and influenced future stars including Little Richard, Elvis Presley, and even Paul McCartney. It remains one of the most beloved early R&B ballads of the decade, blending spiritual warmth with secular emotion. Despite the huge success of Shake a Hand and 2 additional R&B number 1 hits, I'll Be True and Hurts Me to My Heart, Faye's mainstream career proved short-lived. By the late 1950s, as rock and roll shifted the industry, she found herself increasingly viewed as an older-style artist. She recorded for several labels, Imperial, Savoy, Prestige, with diminishing commercial returns, and eventually walked away from secular music. Faye returned to her gospel roots in New Jersey, remarried, and lived quietly, as Fanny Jones, rarely discussing her R&B hits. She continued singing in church and co-wrote a few gospel songs with her husband in the 1970s. Faye Adams' story is that of a true one-hit wonder whose biggest triumph came at great personal and professional cost. Shake a Hand brought her national fame and inspired generations, yet the harsh realities of the 1950s music industry, from club pressures to fleeting success and unequal rewards, left her with little lasting security. She chose peace and faith over the spotlight, quietly closing one chapter to protect her soul in the next. Christine Kittrell. Christine Kittrell was a gifted R&B and blues singer whose rich, smoky voice and emotional delivery made her a standout on the Southern club scene in the 1950s. Born on August 11, 1929 in Nashville, Tennessee, she began performing professionally in 1945 with Louis Brooks and his band at local venues like the New Era Club. She later toured briefly with Big Joe Turner, but she preferred staying close to home, becoming a beloved headliner on the Chitlin Circuit, the network of black-owned clubs and theaters across the segregated South that sustained many R&B artists during the Jim Crow era. In 1952, Kittrell signed with the small local label Tennessee Records. Producer-songwriter and bandleader Ted Jarrett played a central role in her early career, writing and producing several of her recordings. Her signature song, Sittin' Here. Drinking, sometimes listed as Sittin' Here Drinkin', became a solid regional hit. It sold around 150,000 copies in its first year, reached number 1 in New Orleans, number 3 in San Francisco, and charted well in other southern and western cities, yet it never broke into the national Billboard R&B Top 10. She recorded additional singles for Tennessee and later for Jarrett's Champion label, but national breakthrough remained elusive. Like many talented black women working the Chitlin Circuit in the early 1950s, Kittrell faced the everyday pressures of the road and the club scene, long nights, low pay, and the constant need to maintain favor with club owners and local promoters to secure steady gigs and recording opportunities. She delivered strong local performances and even shared stages with emerging talents, including a 1954 session featuring a young Little Richard on piano, but the bigger national stage and major label support largely passed her by. By the late 1950s and early 1960s, Kittrell made occasional returns to recording, including a version of I'm a Woman for VJ, and she moved between secular R&B and gospel music. She eventually stepped away from the spotlight around 1969, choosing a quieter life. She passed away on December 19, 2001. Christine Kittrell earned the respect of musicians and audiences across the South as the undisputed queen of the Nashville Chitlin Circuit. Though she never achieved national fame, her powerful voice and heartfelt performances left a lasting regional legacy. She sang with soul and resilience in a demanding era, never fully escaping the cycle that kept many talented artists confined to local stages despite their undeniable gifts. Mabel King. Mabel King. Born Mabel Elizabeth Washington on December 25, 1932 in Harlem, New York, possessed a rich, commanding voice that seemed destined for gospel stardom. She began her professional career in the late 1940s, singing with the world-renowned Clara Ward Singers, one of the most celebrated and influential gospel groups of the era. With her powerful delivery and emotional depth, Mabel stood out even among such talented company, and soon dreamed of stepping into the solo spotlight. In the early 1950s, while still in her late teens and early 20s, Mabel pursued solo opportunities in Harlem's gospel and nightclub scene. Like many young black female artists, navigating the male-dominated entertainment world of that time, she encountered significant pressures from group managers and club owners. Opportunities for solo gigs, recordings, and visibility often came with difficult personal expectations in exchange for stage time and career advancement. She recorded several solo sides for small labels such as Rama and Amy Records between 1953 and 1956, but national breakthrough in the music industry remained frustratingly out of reach. Frustrated by the limited success and the heavy personal toll of the music business, Mabel gradually shifted her focus. In the mid-1970s, she found a new and more stable platform in acting and comedy. She originated the role of the wicked Eveline the Witch in the Broadway hit The Wiz 1975 and reprised it in the 1978 film version. Her biggest success came when she joined the cast of the popular ABC sitcom What's Happening 1976 to 1979, where she portrayed the no-nonsense yet loving Mabel Mama Thomas. Her commanding presence, sharp wit, and warm humor made Mama one of the most beloved characters on 1970s television, winning her a new generation of fans. Behind the laughter and television fame, Mabel never fully forgot the price she had paid during her music years. In her later life, she battled severe diabetes that led to a stroke in 1990, the amputation of both legs in 1991 and 1994, and eventually an arm. She passed away on November 9, 1999, at the age of 66. Mabel King's journey from gospel hopeful to beloved TV mama stands as a testament to resilience and reinvention. She traded the uncertain dreams of solo music stardom for the steadier light of television success, yet the silent costs she carried from her early years in the industry remained with her. Her story reminds us that true strength often lies in knowing when to walk away and finding new stages where your voice can still shine. 15 extraordinary black R&B women rose to fame with voices that still echo through history, yet each paid a devastating price behind the spotlight. From brutal abuse and forced compromises to shattered dignity in exchange for chart-topping hits, their stories reveal the dark underbelly of an industry that demanded everything. They turned pain into timeless anthems that empowered generations. But after hearing these hidden truths, one question remains. How many legendary voices were truly forced to trade their bodies for fame, and how much longer will we stay silent about the real cost of stardom?